Hi, it's Jackie from Cambridge Safety. Welcome to one of our Take 5 Minutes for Health and Safety. In this particular video, we're just going to talk about the role of the occupational hygienist. So the occupational hygienist, you may have seen them in your workplace. It's part of the health and safety package. It's the applied science concerned with the identification, measurement and appraisal of physical, chemical and biological factors in the workplace. In real life then, these are the people that take samples, they measure hazards in the workplace, they evaluate them and help us as the employer decide on what control measures we need to implement. So your occupational hygienist, they might have done some chemical sampling for dust, they might have done a noise survey, they might have done some sampling for Legionella. They've taken some samples, they've measured them, and then they're going to help us come up with some control measures. They usually work with the health and safety advisor and also the occupational health department if you've got one. The general aspects of occupational hygiene have been around for well over 100 years. It's about recognizing the hazard, taking measurements of that particular hazard, evaluating those measurements. So there's no point taking a measurement. What do you measure it against? So if it's a hazardous chemical, we evaluate it against the limits in EH40. If it's noise, we evaluate it against the lower exposure limits in the control of noise at work regulations, etc. The occupational hygienist isn't just taking the measurements though, they should be taking measurements and then giving us some practical control measures and recommendations, things that the employer can do to help minimise the risk from that particular hazard or risk. An occupational hygienist then, they're going to undertake surveys and evaluate risks to health in the workplace. They're going to measure and take some samples and often use some specialist equipment to do so, and potentially also send samples away to a laboratory. And then they're going to prepare a report on the findings and give us some advice, but we may also use them to help develop procedures, improve processes and safe systems of work in the workplace where there are health hazards that can be measured. There's a range of different measures and samples that an occupational hygienist can do. It's not just about chemicals, but just for information, HSG 173, it's a chemical monitoring strategies. There are 3 strategies, and the reason I'm just bringing it to your attention, if you've got chemicals, you as the health and safety person might do a first level initial appraisal. Have you got any chemicals? What are the classifications? You might then do a second level basic survey using some Draeger tubes and things like that. But if we've got some high-risk chemicals, we're going to have a third level detailed survey, and that's the one that we would normally expect to involve our occupational hygienist in. They're going to have the specialist equipment and be able to advise us on what we need to do, how many samples we need to take, and we're going to get hopefully some more reliable results from that sampling. Now, it's important that we select a competent occupational hygienist. We've got the British Occupational Hygienist Society. They've got a directory online that you can check out. We've also got some of those are chartered occupational hygienists who've had to demonstrate their competency. But sometimes people do some basic training to develop the right skills to measure one particular hazard like Legionnaire or something like that. So selecting our occupational hygienist, we're going to look at their competency and qualifications, but also what practical experience have they had in the workplace. Can they explain what makes them competent to do your particular task? Do they have the resources? That's the time. Do they have the equipment? Do they have the software? But also, do they have laboratories that they can use to get those samples analysed if they need to? Will they subcontract? You might appoint a competent occupational hygienist, but you want therefore them to attend rather than them subcontracting to somebody who may not be as professional or as competent. We can check their membership of the professional body. And equally, a suitable occupational hygienist should also always give you a full written quotation, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, details of their competency, but also what is and what isn't included in that quotation. The control of substances hazardous health regulations has an approved code of practice and a guidance note, and there's details in both about the importance of the employer making sure that anybody they appoint to do sampling and monitoring and maintenance and tests must be competent. And this is theoretical competency, but also practical knowledge. So it's really important that we do appoint the right person to carry out the work for us. Once you get the work done, it's also important that we actually get a valid report from our occupational hygienist. So it should have a title outlining what they've done for us, an executive summary, maybe 1 or 2 pages, just giving us the key issues on what they've done and what the findings were. An introduction with a clear methodology. What are they doing? How are they undertaken the task? Information sources. A description of the process that they've gone through and the process that they are surveying and sampling. How they've done the sampling, what measurements they've taken, what equipment they've used, when was it last calibrated. All of that makes it more reliable and valid. The specific results, if it's noise, the decibel levels, LEPD calculations, and discussion. So I'm not just giving you a table of numbers, but what does it actually mean? We want some conclusions. Is it good, bad, or ugly? And then specific recommendations as an employer. What do we need to do to meet the requirements and ensure that our staff are protected from the health hazard that has been assessed? It's a short potted tour about the role of the occupational hygienist. Thanks for watching. This is Jackie Cambridge from Cambridge Safety, www.cambridgesafety.co.uk. Thanks for watching.